Welcome, my friends. It's Mike D, and there is one lone candle tonight for the legend of a beautiful, long lost 70s actress named Claudia Jennings. Beautiful gal. She came on my radar because there was an episode of the Brady Bunch, which was usually pretty cotton candy. But this episode featured some darker, shadier characters with an edge, and they were trying to make Greg Brady into a rock star and use him and make money off of him. And it was called the Johnny Bravo episode. It's one of the most iconic episodes, and she was just a shady character that came into the Brady's sunny, bright world, and kind of unusual because it was pretty much all lollipops and rainbows, and they didn't bring on darker characters that often. So she made a mark on a lot of us younger fans and kind of gave us the first notion that the world may be full of rough and shady characters out there. That kind of a first notion. So the 70s was the time of the drive-in movie, and oftentimes they were B movies, which were low-budget action or exploitation films, and they only played in drive-ins. And drive-ins were a lot of fun. One of my earliest memories is my dad piling a whole bunch of kids in the back seat and going to see a Disney movie in a drive-in. And if you want to see what they're like, watch the movie Grease. There's a great drive-in sequence. And there's something really fun about being in the car, and you'd have a speakerphone and put it on your window, and you'd have all kinds of junky food, like milkshakes and caramel corn and stuff, and watch these usually, lower budget movies, exploitation films, etc. But it's something that should come back, really. It's a lot of fun and enjoyment. So Claudia Jennings, after the Brady Bunch, she bounced between TV and film. She did both, which she grabbed any kind of acting job she could get. She was Playboy Playmate around 1970, which gave her a certain cachet at the time. It was considered this classy thing, and it launched a bunch of actresses like Dorothy Stratton, and she used that Playboy connection to get her into TV and film. And she's a good actress. She always plays kind of like the know-it-all, maybe wiser than her years. There's a clip of her on the streets of San Francisco, and she plays a prostitute who is kind of, edgy, but with a hooker with a heart of gold, that kind of character. And there is a movie online on YouTube you can watch if you want to see a B movie, a horror movie, called Sisters of Death. And it's about a sorority sisters in a college, and they play Russian roulette, and someone dies, and years later they all come back to the house and, solve the mystery or whatever. But there's a free movie on YouTube called Sisters of Death, and that would be a cool one to check out. But I would recommend Moonshine County Line. It was, about running, whiskey and rum in the South and making money, off of illegal moonshine, one of those cheap movies. And she played alongside one of the actresses from the Brady Bunch again. Marsha was trying to break out and do some more adult roles, but she could only really get into B movies at that point, and she was struggling too. The B movie is a world of former matinee idols and former child stars and former teen idols, they kind of bounce around in this netherworld of films that only got shown in drive-ins back then and then were forgotten. This was before the videotape, or just around the time video was just starting out. So I would recommend that one, or the Great Texas Dynamite Chase. She was wearing, skimpy outfits and blowing up banks with dynamite and on the run from the cops. It was a Bonnie and Clyde type of thing. And that was kind of her most notorious action flick. And she starred along John Saxon, and he was a long-lost matinee idol from the 60s. And, once you lose those pretty boy looks, it's difficult. You have to find another way into Hollywood. So John Saxon was bouncing around these B movies, and they even threw in Johnny Crawford, who was a former child star, and he's in that movie too. So you get a lot for your money if you can find that one. As the 70s progressed, she was a beautiful gal. She looked somewhat like Farrah Fawcett, kind of willowy, and she tried to get into Charlie's Angels. At a certain point, the Angels were leaving the cast. They were bailing out. I mean, Farrah Fawcett was bailing out to go into movies, and although she got stuck in a contract where they brought her back every year for 3 episodes, so she kind of was coming and going, and Kate Jackson wanted to leave after a couple seasons, and so she almost got the part as a Charlie's Angel, but she just never quite could make it onto the A-list for TV or movies. And like I said, she's kind of a long-lost legend, one of those hardworking Hollywood actresses who made a mark but never quite broke through, except on the queen of the B-movie circuit. And that was in 79, and then she made one more car exploitation movie up in Canada, and I suspect because they don't have unions up in Canada, they can do it for less. And this was in 79, and then we're coming to the tragic end of the tale here. Well, let me say this. I grew up around Los Angeles and the canyons and Malibu, and there's some very treacherous highways and canyons, and people get into crashes, and cars fly into the ocean or off cliffs or down canyons. And Jan and Dean, it happened to Jan, and they even did a song called Dead Man's Curve about crashing, and then it was really eerie because a year or two later it happened to him. And he survived but had a lot of physical problems. So she was driving on PCH, which is the one and only highway in Malibu. It has a lot of problems. There's fires out there, landslides. People drive really fast. It's the really A-list crowd. They're running back and forth from LA to Malibu. Very wealthy elite group. And she was on that highway. She crashed and she died. Unfortunately, very sad situation. She was only 30, just at the peak of her beauty, and I think would have gone on to be work for many, many years in Hollywood. I really think she had a great presence if you watch her clips on YouTube. And check out the Streets of San Francisco one. It's only a couple minutes long, but she was a natural. And one account said that she fell asleep at the wheel. And, like I said, that happens. People are working long hours on the set. They're overworked. They're tired. Maybe she did. I don't know. Other accounts just say it was just a crash. But she's one of those long-lost Hollywood legends, and I salute her, Claudia Jennings. And she did make that mark on the Brady Bunch. And check out Sisters of Death, the horror movie she made about the Russian roulette game in the sorority, and that's on YouTube. And check out her work if you can find her B movies, and try to find a drive-in theater. There's still some around LA. They're mostly swap meets, but who knows? Maybe they will come back, and maybe there are a few drive-ins out there. But check out the movie Grease. They have a great scene in the drive-in, and try to find one of your own to visit and check out. Claudia Jennings. All right, I'm Mike D at Pepper Tree Lane, and check out my store and cool stuff and support my work on Patreon. Thank you.